How's it going, guys? My name is Shane. Welcome back to the Horror Basement, and today we're going to be talking about the movie House from 1986. And this movie, I think, serves as a good example for us to discuss the horror subgenre of horror comedy, which has become increasingly popular in recent years. Uh, so, before watching House, I had heard of the movie and seen posters and stuff for it, heard it. I guess mentioned it was in kind of the 80s horror realm at the time, but I'd never heard anything about it. And I was really surprised by the comedy elements in the movie because the setup does seem so serious. The movie follows Roger Cobb. He is a horror novelist who is recently divorced. His young son, Jimmy, is missing, got abducted or something happened to him. He's disappeared. And he is moving into his aunt's large house after his aunt hangs herself, commits suicide, in order to write a book about his time during the Vietnam War. And he's under a lot of pressure to write this book because it's been over a year since his last book was released, and his publisher is pressuring him, and he's also getting backlash on that because the publisher doesn't think anyone wants to hear about Vietnam anymore, considering it's the mid-'80s. So overall, Roger has some serious shit going on in his life, and when you take all that into account, you wouldn't expect this to be a comedy. You would expect a kind of like serious haunted house type movie in the vein of like The Conjuring or Paranormal Activity, The Exorcist, or not The Exorcist, Amityville Horror. But it does end up there. It does end up essentially half the movie is serious horror and half the movie is kind of slapstick humor where Roger has to go on these misadventures with his various neighbors, including his nosy neighbor Harold, who seems to just kind of insert himself into all of Roger's misadventures. So unlike, I guess, one of the better examples of modern horror comedy is Cabin in the Woods, which kind of the entire plot of both the horror and comedy elements are kind of mixed evenly throughout the plot. Whereas in the movie House, in this movie, the two are clearly delineated, and you can tell what's supposed to be funny and what's supposed to be scary based on the monster design. Now, this is mid-'80s, so we're in the golden age of practical effects. And the monsters that are supposed to be scary, like the monster in the closet and Roger's old war buddy, Big Ben, who comes back as a zombie, they are serious, good-looking, meant to be scary monster designs, where the elements where it's supposed to be funny, all of the monsters look like Grimace from McDonald's, or they look like something that's straight out of like Ghostbusters. So normally with a movie that's so tonally inconsistent, you would think that would lead to a non-enjoyable watching experience. But really, I don't think it's that much of a detriment to this movie, because you can basically let each portion stand alone. Like I said, the bits that are supposed to be scary, they look good by 80s standards, and they have a good sense of kind of ambiance and tension to them, whereas the comedy portions are, a little bit more mediocre, but, comedy doesn't age very well, and it's, almost a 40-year-old movie, or 35-year-old movie at this point. But yeah, so the horror elements stand on their own, and the comedy is just good enough to not drag down the picture as a whole. So overall, I actually really enjoyed this one. Kind of an interesting little bit of trivia. This movie, it was one of the producers on this movie was Sean S. Cunningham, and who was the director of the first Friday the 13th movie. And one of the stuntmen is someone you might have heard of, a man by the name of Kane Hodder. So Kane Hodder actually worked stunts on this, presumably as zombie Big Ben, before he ever was Jason in the later Friday the 13th sequels. Yes, overall, I would recommend this movie. Kind of a deep cut as far as 80s horror goes, but I think you'll enjoy it. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button to join the Basement Army, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.